call the February 19th, 2019 meeting of the Broken Arrow City Council to order, and invocation is going to be given by Pastor Scott Moore.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful, cold, rainy night that we can gather inside and be a part of the future and the present of this great community. Father, I thank you for each and every leader that's represented in this room, and for the dedication that they have for our city, and to see it continue to thrive. And Father, I thank you for each of the employees as well that do such a wonderful job in our community. And Father, we just ask tonight that you would guide and direct the business of the city, that you would give us wisdom, and that we would make decisions that bring glory to you, but also for the well-being of our citizens here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. It's in the name of Jesus that we ask your presence in this time. Amen.
Amen. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy.
Here.
Parks. Here. Lester. Here. Udi.
Here.
Thurman.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is item 5, consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second being made. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy.
Yes.
Parks.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Item 6, consideration of, there were none. Item 7, public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, and awards. Item A, presentation on the tax increment financing district by Cindy.
Good evening. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the TIF. Originally, the purpose of the TIF was for the flight safety and downtown economic development. It was an eligible project under the Oklahoma state statutes. Before they even started the TIF, they did have a review committee, and it included all organizations who would be impacted on a tax basis. So the Tulsa Technology Center, Broken Arrow Public Schools, Tulsa County, Tulsa Health Department, the City of Broken Arrow, and Tulsa Library. After a couple of meetings and really heavy discussions, the committee approved the creation of the DIS by resolution, and it was unanimous. Resolution 667 on August 25th, 2010. This is the boundary. It was a 1-mile boundary. It goes from Elm to Lynn Lane to Kenosha to Houston. That was the designated TIF district. But the part that is in like the green, you can see the dark lines, that's the increment district boundaries, and that was the only one that was affected by the baseline of the TIF. After the approval, it went to council. It was approved by ordinance number 3127 on October 19, 2010. The TIF amount was $13,500 plus financing and other costs. The length of the TIF was not to exceed 25 years. Instead of waiting to collect, the council, elected to advance fund improvements through a loan and interfund transfers, and they pledged 1/8 of the sales tax. The loan period is for 20 years, no prepayment penalty. Maturity date is October 2030. The loan closed November 2010. The projected payoff with the current assessed values as of today and the interest rate we are paying right now, it will pay off in the spring of 2028, which will be a couple years earlier. But that could also change with the assessed values going up, but that's what we know of today. This is the TIF original budget. The TIF district was for $13,500,000, but we actually spent $14,369,000. We had downtown acquisition, flight safety incentive, infrastructure, and then we had contingency and planning, which we did not spend any on that. I know this is hard to see in your packets, a little bit easier. This is actually what we spent. The TIF amount was $13.5, and then we took the balance of it out of the sales tax improvement fund. So totally spent or committed was $14,369,000. The assessed value of the TIF. Before the TIF was even started, the assessed value in that 1 square mile was $4.8 million. As you can see right now, because of all the improvements, the 2018 value is $11,154,000. In January 2014, State Question 766 exempted the intellectual property. As you can see, 2013, the assessed value was $12 million and it went down to $9 million, but it's growing again. The property taxes generated since the creation of the TIF from Broken Arrow Public Schools. This all started because there was an article, and we sat down with this couple people from the school district and explained everything. The beginning revenue based on the base of the tax base was $202,000, which they get to keep still. And each year, as the assessed values have gone up, the money that was redirected into the TIF for 2018 was $261,000. So the total since the beginning of the TIF that was redirected was $1,710,000. As you can see, again, with that state question, it went down some. From all the entities that were involved, the Towson County redirected was $914,000. The community college was $296,000. Tulsa Technology was $548,000. And the Broken Arrow Public Schools was $1.7 million, for a total of about $3.5 million. Excuse me. The property tax collected from the district so far for us has been a total of $4.2 million. As you can see, 2012 we only $6.10, and that last year through December 31st, we collected $764,000 for that calendar year. The sales tax, we also redirect that into the TIF. 2011 was only $18,000, and because of all the improvements, 2018 was $431,000. Total sales tax redirected was $1.7 million, and the sales tax growth was redirected to retire the TIF debt. Total collected so far from the TIF is $5,992,000. But just the original budget was $13 million. We've spent a tremendous amount more money. Other capital projects that we have funded within the TIF, from GEO bonds, the sales tax capital improvement fund, the Vision 2025, CDBG funds, utility capital. The city has spent or committed an additional $28 million. And I apologize because it's so small on the screen, but these are all the projects that is happening downtown or are completed. So the total spent pledged within the TIF district since the beginning is $42,615,000.
Are there any questions for Cindy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item B, presentation of the Together Project Artwork Competition and recognition of the award winners.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, City Councilors. Kenny Schwab, Assistant City Manager over Operations. I think by now everybody knows that a little over a year ago, City of Broken Arrow partnered with Broken Arrow Public Schools to really address a creek that went by really from, if you will, Dick's Sporting Goods all the way to Nienhuis Park. The projects that we created out of that are named the Together Project because we're partnering with the school. We're trying to educate the public using the students as well, creating an outdoor classroom. We've got a wetlands in place that actually is nationally recognized now. We actually have another project scheduled for this upcoming year, a rain garden. We've named the creek. But one of the projects that we wanted to talk about a year ago was we wanted to create some artwork. that we could put up and down the creek that would draw attention to the public about the importance of keeping our creeks clean. Basically, for those that are old enough and that can remember the Give a Hoot, Don't Pollute slogan and program, we kind of wanted to create something for Broken Arrow that was a similar, some type of catchphrase, a mascot, something that would speak to the young and the more experienced, or as people call it, the old, the more experienced personnel. So we've created this artwork competition with the school in October of last year. We got several submissions concerning this project. 2 of them rose to the top. And if you could pull up the first picture at this time, one of them just flat embodied the Don't Litter program that we had talked about. It was basically Phil the raccoon who wanted to fill the trash can, not our creeks. And the catchphrase that came up was stash the trash. One of the things that we talked about with this is a sign that could go in our waterways, our creeks, that we could put throughout the city. And thanks to Rocky's staff, they made a quick sign of it. I want to present that right now.
Oh, cool.
Show the public.
Oh, that's it.
So with that sign, we feel like that we can put that up and down our creeks and really get the message out that we want to keep them clean. The other artwork that rose to the top really kind of embodied more of the program itself, not necessarily the Don't Litter, but the program itself. If you can pull that one up now. It was really to get the message across that your actions affect the environment, and the environment affects you. So with that, we could see a T-shirt that we could use for the watershed groups that could really get that message out. Maybe a sign in the park. So the committee selected both of these really as a kind of a first and second place. And at this point in time, I'd like to call up the 2 students that performed the artwork and present them with a check from Vice Mayor. If Paige and Kim would come up. You're right here. Paige. And Kim. Again, we thank you and appreciate the artwork because we will use it throughout the city.
All right, well, for my part, thank you and for your hard work. I know their teacher, so I know she's proud. Yeah, so, well done. Are there any comments or anything on that item?
I'm excited.
It is, it's cool, that's cool. All right, we'll move on to item 8, citizens' opportunity to address the council. I don't believe anyone has signed up, so on to item 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of changes to the Broken Arrow Youth City Council program, and that's Jennifer Hooks.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. Jennifer Hooks, Community Relations Liaison. As you know, the Broken Arrow Youth City Council was established in 2001, and it's been growing stronger and stronger each year. Recruitment takes place each summer with applications taken from rising juniors for the following school year. Students who are accepted to the program are encouraged to commit to 2 years of service, and the average size of the youth council is typically 15 to 20 students, including seniors. This year we have 17, and we have been discussing recently with Mr. Parks and Mr. Udi about growing the program and how we could do that, and we've been thinking about adding sophomores to the recruitment. So this is just discussion among you all, and We talked about possibly adding another trip in the fall for the juniors to get some leadership experience. And if this change is approved, we may also try moving elections to May instead of in the fall so that the rising seniors could take over during the summer and step into those roles and help with recruitment. I'll open it up to you all for any questions, comments.
Do you have new ideas of events or projects that you'll do for the sophomores? Because I know each level, each year, they have different things that you guys go through.
Not
Do you
so
have
far.
anything?
They would
That's
still be doing the big idea unless we vote to change it. They would still work on that as a group.
I think it's great. People, I mean, I hear all the time that they're upset when it's only sophomore or juniors and seniors. So I think it.
Well, Jennifer's tried for several years, excuse me, to try to include sophomores, but I think we were just trying to see how it was going to fit. The program is a big program. We have a good turnout, 15 students normally, she said. And we try to take the seniors, and we are in a couple of weeks, to Washington, D.C., to the National League of Cities with the council's approval on that. The council also attends that same conference they're at. And so it is really a great opportunity. This last year, the other big conference that we go to is in the fall. And last year was in Los Angeles. And I stayed several hours with the youth that went to that conference. And it was a tremendous conference also. It was a conference with a lot of the kids from that conference were from the western part of the United States, although it's not restricted, it's just closer for them to go. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to, at least the officers possibly of the sophomores, and when their junior year possibly, get to go to that fall conference before they go to Washington, D.C. Our fall conference this year is in Austin,
San
San Antonio, Texas. So I think it's great. We visited with Scott and Jennifer. Of course, a lot of it's up to Jennifer. One thing would be a little bit difficult, and she said that she can handle it, is if they start as a sophomore, then that would be a 3-year program. And in the 2-year program, we always try to have, we changed it from twice a month to once a month because so many of our youth city councilors are already leaders in the community. And they spend a lot of time at doing that, and we want to encourage that. So we changed it to once a month, and they know that ahead of time. So Jennifer always has I won't say an activity, but a presentation from some of the staff during that particular meeting. So in 2 years, they get to visit with most of the staff. And Jennifer has assured us that she would be able to broaden that and have the training for what City Hall's like, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to teach them about city government, let them have a first-hand experience, let them go with some of the staff, and it's been very important to me as a teacher that they do that, and that's one of my favorite things as a city councilman is sponsoring the youth city council. I still hear from them from 10 years ago. I still hear from some of the youth, and we write them letters of recommendation to several to the Air Force Academy, different colleges that they've gone to. So we stay with them and encourage them. I encourage them to get involved in government. I always kid them, although not so now because so many of them are getting older. I'm training them to help run against me, somebody to replace me on the city council level. So we've had some tremendous leaders, and I would encourage the council to support this endeavor of broadening this. And I believe she's already run it by the city manager.
Yes.
So that's my stand.
Yeah, I think it'd give the younger kids an opportunity, and many of them may already be involved. Those that aren't, it gives them an opportunity to begin to develop leadership skills, which I think is because that can carry on to their college career or whatever they do. So.
Well, and when Councilman Parks came back from the Los Angeles trip, he was excited about what they did, and I think this was really his brainchild as we started talking about this, and I think Jennifer and I were excited about it because one of the challenges we've had in the past is having that continuity and leadership, and the rising juniors that come in, they've been there a year before, they know a lot of things, but they still have, sometimes there's a gap because we're electing the council and the mayor. I think this will allow us a continued, if approved, continuity in that leadership and a more cohesiveness among the youth as we develop this. And it's exciting to see them learning things, and you think, well, gosh, visiting the water plant can't be that interesting. But they go and they are asking all these questions. Well, unless you're Alex Mills. But they're asking all these questions, and suddenly you realize, man, they're very interested in this. So it's, and I think they're often surprised at what and how involved the city is in making sure that they have, fresh water and working plumbing and safe roads and all those things. I think they're always surprised at how big a role we play. So I join with Johnny in suggesting that this is a good thing for us to do, and would welcome the opportunity to expand the program.
I'd like to point out we've got one of our seniors watching you all tonight in the IT room. He's job shadowing the IT department.
Very
So.
good.
Well,
He can tell us how
Hi
we
to
did later.
Andrew.
that's why we spoke highly of them. I might tell you, one of the only times that we didn't have a good outing, and I'm a plumber, and I had trouble with it, or a retired plumber, but we took them because we want them to know where the money goes we spend. And if you'll look at our budget, a tremendous amount of our budget goes to the sewer system and sewer plant, and we're in the process right now of expanding it. The night that we took them out there, or the evening we took them out there, was kind of a warm evening, very rainy, just, I'll call it a foggy evening. Let me tell you, that sewer gas does not go anywhere on that type of
It just
evening.
hung on you.
And they were just barely able to make it back to the bus.
And
But
that
they
was
did-
Valentine's Day, right?
It was Valentine's Day, very romantic
So
experience.
I don't know if they went on a date after that, but they did learn a lot. And those things they remember. In fact, I remember that. So I'd make a motion that we approve the changes to the Youth City Council program.
Second?
All right, a motion and second having been made, is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. All right, moving on to item B, consideration, discussion, and possible termination of an existing agreement between the City of Broken Arrow and Mark's Rose Care, and that is Phil Hink.
Vice Mayor, City Council. I'm Phil Hink, Parks Maintenance Manager, Acting Park Director. In July of 2018, Council approved an agreement between the City of Broken Arrow and Mark's Rose Care for maintenance on the rose beds within the Rose District. Park staff was recently informed that the owner and operator of Mark's Rose Care had passed away, and that they would no longer be able to fulfill their obligations of that agreement. The agreement allows the city to terminate the agreement at any time due to any unspecified reasons within the agreement. Due to the unfortunate circumstances with Mark's Rose Care service and the need and importance of consistent maintenance and care of the roses in the Rose District, staff is recommending that council approve the termination of the existing agreement with the City of Broken Arrow and Mark's Rose Care. And I will answer any questions you might have.
Then what do you plan on doing after that?
At this time, my park staff will fill in the gap, and we will work with General Services to rebid the project
Okay.
for maintenance care.
Are there any other questions?
Mark's Rose Service, I mean, they're in agreement with that termination. There's not going to be any
Yes.
comment on our side.
Yeah, they called us and informed us that
Right,
they
you said
they
that.
could no longer perform the service.
Make a motion to approve termination of the existing agreement between City of Broken Arrow and Mark's Rose Service.
Second?
Motion second being made, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Next item is item C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute a purchase and sales agreement to purchase from Vicky McBride property generally located in the southwest quarter of Section 17, Township 18 North, Range 14 East, and that is being presented by Trevor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. As you know, the city has plans to complete the widening of Washington Street between Garnett Road and Olive Avenue. Ms. McBride owns property at 4800 West Washington Street. The city has reached an agreement with Ms. McBride to acquire her property. We actually have a letter of intent that's signed by the landowner and also was authorized by this council on February the 5th. The payment of the terms was for $8,170. The city would be responsible for closing costs. Staff recommends that you approve and authorize execution of the purchase and sales agreement to purchase the property from Vicki McBride so the city can go forward with widening efforts.
Are there any questions?
Make a motion to approve and authorize execution of a purchase and sales agreement to purchase real property from Vicki McBride.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Next item, item D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute agreement for professional consultant services with Chase Fetters Hewitt Architects for the design of the Senior Citizens Activity Center. Alex.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council. Alex Mills, Director of Engineering and Construction. You have before you an agreement to design the Senior Center Annex. In 2017, we went through a selection process, and Chase Fetters Hewitt was selected to do the conceptual design of this project. That was completed, and because of the 2018 bond project, we've initiated a negotiation with them for the final design of that project. Although we're still pending on property acquisition, that wouldn't change the scope of this project from a design standpoint significantly, so we've decided to move forward with the agreement. We've negotiated with them. It's a fairly extensive design due to the fact that there's a full-service kitchen and some other amenities in there that would be a little atypical for us, but we feel we have a fair price for the design, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So you said we haven't acquired the property yet, but their contract is for site development.
That's correct.
So that phase of it, they won't do until we've got that.
Honestly, we're probably not going to initiate much, if any, of the design other than probably an initial stakeholders meeting to kind of get the group back together. There was some of those type of discussions held during the conceptual. We'll probably refresh that and then hold and hope that the property gets acquired fairly quickly.
So that would be, include those in the stakeholders would be some from the center.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So you'll be contacting them pretty soon, is that right?
That would be the hope, yes. That's why we're initiating this contract. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Make a motion to approve and authorize execution agreement of professional consultant service agreement with Chase Fetters Hewitt.
Second.
Motion and second being made. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Move on to item E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute resolution number 1183, a resolution of necessity to condemn certain property as described. Alex.
Thank you. This is for the County Line Trunk Sewer project that we're actively bidding. We have several parcels here in a row that we've failed to reach agreement on with the landowner for either temporary or permanent easement to allow us to move forward with that project. You have all the details in terms of the negotiations, the offers, and the interaction between our right-of-way agent and those landowners, and we've just reached an impasse. From a timing standpoint, we can't negotiate any further. So we would ask your permission to move forward with the necessity to condemn these properties.
And for the benefit of those both in the audience and who may be listening later, the city goes through a pretty exhaustive process trying to reach agreement. Is that correct?
We certainly do, yes. Numerous calls. We really try to, wherever we can, bend over backwards to work with the landowners. Honestly, there's probably some bad feelings between a lot of the landowners along this project and the city from the first construction of the County Line Trunk Sewer years ago. There were some bad feelings that brewed up, and a lot of those landowners are the same, and honestly, they're just not very happy with the city over what happened before, but we hope that through our construction and how we handle it and how we make sure their property's whole when we walk away, that despite the condemnation, they'll feel better about the process.
You're taking the same line through there, but you said you think you will need some permanent easement also?
We're not following the exact alignment, the entire length. There's certain areas where we're veering from the original alignment for various design reasons. And then in addition to permanent easements for that, we're putting in such a large pipe that we need, we have an existing easement around the existing line. We need more to be able to build this line.
I see.
So it's a combination.
Okay, I know the construction easement, but I was just wanting to know, we're taking it off, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And that line is how big?
Well, it varies. It gets as big as 60 inches down near the pipe and then gets smaller upstream.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 1183 and authorize its execution.
Second.
Motion and second being made. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Next item is item F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute resolution number 1186, a resolution of necessity to condemn certain described property. Alex.
Basically the same situation, just a different landowner. And if I can answer any specific questions, I'd be happy to.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 1186 and authorize its execution.
Second?
Motion and second being made. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. I believe we're moving on to item G, another resolution number 1187, a resolution of necessity condemn described property, consideration, discussion thereof.
I'd like to be inventive here, but it's I can't. It's the same exact situation, just a different landowner.
Song, different verse.
Yeah. I'm going to mix it up on the fourth one, though. So.
Thanks. Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 1187 and authorize execution.
Second.
Motion and second being made. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. And finally, consideration, discussion, possible approval of an authorization to execute resolution number 1189, a resolution of necessity to condemn certain described property.
This one's completely different. It's not. It's the same exact thing. Sorry. I just can't lie to you folks.
You just did. You said you was going to change it up.
Well, I did by
It's a different
fibbing
location.
to you at first and then backing off of it very
It is
quickly.
a different piece of
location.
It's a different piece of property,
Yes,
different
it
owner.
is. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a very small construction easement. It's kind of sad that we're having to go to condemnation over something that's probably worth $100, but
Wow.
we have to have the right to get on there.
Is that
So
right?
we'll probably pay them more than that once it goes to condemnation. But yeah, that was what the appraisal was for. So
Shane, is there any discussion on
I
item
make a
H?
motion to approve resolution number 1189 and authorize its execution.
Second?
Motion second. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes.
thank you.
Moving on to item 10, preview ordinances. Item 10A, consideration, discussion, and possible preview of an ordinance amending Chapter 16 offenses, miscellaneous Article 1 pertaining to unmanned aircraft systems. That's Trevor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. It's been brought to the legal department's attention that there have been several issues surrounding the use of drones by private individuals in the city of Broken Arrow. This is an area that is heavily regulated and, in fact, is pretty much almost completely preoccupied by the federal government in terms of the FAA. However, there are certain local areas of concern that cities can pass ordinances on. And so the preview ordinance that's in front of you is amending our miscellaneous offense ordinance that provides 14 provisions for the safe use and operation of drones by private individuals. It's notable that this does not apply to the use of drones by the government. This is only for private individuals. And briefly, I'll just kind of go through some of the scenarios and concerns that are raised that this ordinance attempts to address. So the first provision in the ordinance requires that if someone is using a drone for audio or visual purposes, such as recording, where someone has a reasonable expectation of privacy, that would be an offense. So the idea would be if someone's using a drone to do peeping Tom type activities, that type of activity would be prohibited under our ordinance. Second, if you're using a drone to harass, intimidate, or threaten or victimize folks, or you're using your drone outside of daylight hours, if you're operating the drone over 400 feet, which comes directly from the federal regulations, you can't operate drones over that height. You can't operate them faster than 20 miles an hour, and you have to have a visual line of sight between the drone and the operator, meaning the operator of the drones has to be able to put eyes on the drone, and so they're not just operating it remotely by video. That's a safety issue involved there. Also require that you don't operate your drone within 25 feet of another human being, or you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or you're operating it in a reckless or careless manner that jeopardizes the public. You can think of situations where someone might be operating a drone that's harassing traffic or is distracting drivers. Things of that nature would give our officers an ability to cite for those types of activities. In addition, you can't equip your drone with a hazardous material or a weapon, which I thought was a little unusual, but if you go to YouTube, you can actually see people have weaponized their drones, which is not a good idea. In addition, we incorporate any violations of the federal, state statutes or regulations, and also if there's temporary flight restrictions issued by the FAA, or if the drones operate in the path of a manned aircraft, or if they interfere with police, firefighters, or emergency response. You can imagine if there was a natural disaster in the city, or even a call that our first responders respond to, if someone is operating a drone in a way that's distracting or is preventing our first responders from doing their jobs, we need to be able to handle that situation there on the ground. Obviously, this is a preview ordinance. We're open for any discussion or input the council may have. We tried to be very intentional and careful in drafting this so that it was not running afoul of any preemption issues with the federal government. I believe that in the form that this ordinance is in, it would survive any types of challenges. I can't look in the crystal ball and tell you 100% that it would, but based upon other cities' experiences in this space, I think this would be a really good ordinance in that way. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have about the preview ordinance in front of you.
Any discussion? I would say I want to thank your department for looking at this. I know serving on the Transportation and Infrastructure Services Committee with the National League of Cities, this has been a hot topic item, and one of the major topics was using these as both a weaponized instrument and using them for peeping Tom, and that's something that concerns people. So I appreciate for my part, the legal department looking into this.
Make a motion to preview the ordinance and set for adoption.
Second?
Motion second being made. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Item 11, ordinances. Item 11A, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3555. I believe that's Trevor as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. Item before you was previously considered by Council on July 3rd, 2017. This ordinance codifies the approval of BAZ 1982 to change the zoning on the subject property from 0.73 acres from CH to R3 to DM, with the City Council waiving the platting requirement. The recommendation is that Council adopt ordinance number 3555 and approves the emergency clause.
Is there any discussion?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 3555.
Second?
Motion and second. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes.
Move for the emergency clause?
Second?
Motion second, a roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Item 11B, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3560. And Trevor, are you handling that one as well?
Yes, I am, Vice Mayor. The item before you was previewed at the last council meeting. The Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority has requested that the city close a 0.09 acre waterline easement over on property that Beta owns at the Tiger Hill Plaza. The easement is not in use and isn't required for any public purpose. There's going to be future further development on the site. As a result, staff recommends that we accept the utility easement closure and recommends that council adopt ordinance number 3560 and approve the emergency clause. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 3560.
Second?
Motion and second. No further discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes.
Move for emergency clause.
Second?
Motion second. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Moving on to item 12, remarks and inquiries by governing body members. Any remarks or inquiries by my colleagues? All right, we'll move on to item 13, remarks and updates by city manager, including recognition of recent accomplishments by employees and elected officials.
I'm saving him up for the city manager.
I anticipated as much. There is no executive session. I would entertain one more motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion second being made. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. I call this meeting of the Broken Arrow Economic Development, I'm sorry, I took them out, jumped out of order. Call this meeting of the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority to order. Roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Udi,
Here.
Thurmond.
All right, next item is item 3, consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion and second being made. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. There are no public hearings, no general authority business, and no executive session, so I'd entertain one more motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion second being made.
2 seconds.
Yes, emphatic. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Now, I will call the meeting of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order and ask for roll call, please.
Wimpy,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Udi,
Here.
Thurmond.
Next item on the agenda is item 3, consideration of consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion second being made. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Item 4, there was no items removed. Item 5, general authority business. Item 5A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval and authorization to execute a third extension to agreement for the purchase and sale of real estate, and that's going to be handled by Norm.
Good evening. Norm Stevens, Economic Development Manager for the City of Broken Arrow. If you'll remember back on January the 2nd, 2019, I came before the board and I requested the second extension for the land sale to Sound Mind Behavioral Hospital. At that time, they were negotiating with CenterPoint to run the day-to-day operations of the behavioral hospital, and they requested a 60-day extension, which the authority granted. That extension would have taken us to March 1st, 2019. A couple of weeks after I came before this board, Mr. Masood Kasim, who represents Sound Mind, contacted me and said that the negotiations with CenterPoint had fallen through and that they were working to get an additional provider of someone to run the day-to-day operations on the hospital on board. As you remember, when we were going through all this over the last year, the Sound Mind got a certificate of need with the state of Oklahoma, and that certificate of need can only be extended one time, and that is for a period of 6 months. I believe that they have gone back to the state of Oklahoma to get that extension. The doctor who's in charge of Sound Mind and Mr. Masood Kasim came to me requesting an additional 6-month extension so that they can continue the negotiations and hopefully get a partner on board. In full disclosure to this board, on January 2nd, when I came before you, I assured you that the second extension to the Sound Mind agreement would be the last one that I would bring to you. And now it is time for the third extension that I'm bringing to you. So that is the situation behind it. Mr. Masood Kasim is here representing Sound Mind and would like to address this board to explain what they are doing to get a hospital provider on board.
Is there escrow funds on this?
There's $50,000 worth of escrow funds that have been put in. Yes, sir.
Does that go hard at any time during?
Yes, sir. That has passed now.
So it's hard.
Yes. The one other thing that I would bring to the board on your fact sheet, it says that Dr. Hussein is extremely motivated to close on the authority-controlled land no later than April 22nd, 2019. That was a Scrivener's error. That should be August 22nd, 2019. If it's all right with you, Mr. Rudy, I'd like to bring.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. If you don't mind if I can pass this to you.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
As Mr. Norman described, that we're requesting the extension, and the only reason we're requesting our extension is that we had just submitted our first submittal, which is the sixth submittal with the state. And that, if you see in the last page, that's the submittal that we did with the state, and has been not approved yet, but this is the final submittal, and we hope this is the final submittal. We are going to be, after this final submittal, we are going to be at the design development, which typically takes 5 to 6 months. So during the design development, what we are trying to find, we're trying to find an entity that is going to partner with us, not only on the construction portion of the project, but as well as the operational of management. This is a kind of a unique situation with the physicians, those are involved in this one. They cannot directly be involved in the operation of the hospital due to the regulations. So this has become a challenge for us in a sense is that this is looking as more as like a startup. So what we have found out that it will be probably a best in the interest of with the doctors and meeting the certificate of guidelines and everybody need that we partner up with somebody with a more experience. So right now we are working with the different hospital as well as operational management companies that can provide the service. So this is where we are, but everything that you see that I've provided you is up to date. So our certificate of need is up to date, is current, and so is our submittal. So with the Department of Oklahoma Health, we have met all their requirements. We are working with Dewberry Architect that they are right now at the design development. I'll be more than glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Is Dewberry doing a full set of plans or just preliminary plans for you?
No, there's full sets. So we have a contract with the Dewberry for the entire portion of it. So they have just finished, which is the floor plan, which is that you see on the second page, and now they're going to be in the second phase, which is going to be the construction and design development.
When I met with Masood and the doctor a couple of weeks ago, one of the things they did share with me, and Masood, I'd like you to speak to this, is they have over $1 million invested into this project already.
It's 1.2.
$1.2 million. So they're very motivated for this project to go through, obviously.
Well, and that begs the question: how are your negotiations going with a new provider?
Very well. Again, until we have the signed document, we want to be cautious about it. But we have a major. I don't mind disclosing that one. We are working with the Signature Healthcare Group, and they have a 16 facility. And when we met with them, they are looking to expand up to 25. So it gives us a hope that we'll be able to partner, because that's where we are kind of meeting the minds where they are looking for expansion and we're looking for a partner. So we are hoping that this group we have met and we have introduced also with the city. So we are hoping that we'll be able to partner, but again, we'll be cautious. But at the same time, we're working with the two different other hospital group also as well.
Are there any other questions?
Norm, tell me we had discussions about them acquiring the land to the east of the fire station.
Yes.
Is that still a part of this?
They have right of first refusal on that parcel of land to the east of the fire station for a period, I believe, up to 5 years. Now then, I have recently been contacted by an individual who is wanting to put a bid on that property. I have not received that in my office. Once that bid is turned into me, I will go to Masood and his group, let them know that we have had an offer on that land. At that point, they will either have to purchase that land, or if the authority so agrees, they can sell the land to that other provider.
Very good.
Is there any further discussion or motion on this matter?
I mean, we just, the land we've had for a long time, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just tying it up. So
Yeah.
I don't see it's any benefit to us not to agree with
Yeah,
this.
I agree.
I can tell you that that 14.2 acres, since I began negotiations with Sound Mind, I have not been contacted by any other group or realtor who is wishing to purchase that land.
Make a motion to approve the extension to the agreement for
Thank you.
purchase, sale of real estate, and authorize its execution.
Second?
Motion and second being made. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes. Next item is item 6. There is executive session. There is none. And item 7, adjournment. Item
Make a
2.
motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion second being made. Roll call vote, please.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Udi.
Yes.
That it? I know, it's like.
So you gotta meet on Thursday morning?
Yep. Yes, yes.